how the rich use leverage to build massive wealth safely. Most people think wealth is built only through hard work. They believe the formula is simple. Work more hours, earn more money, save what you can, and maybe, just maybe, one day you'll become financially free. But the wealthy don't follow that path. They follow something far more powerful. They follow leverage. And once you understand leverage, you stop trading time for money and start multiplying time, money, ideas. And people in a way that creates wealth even while you sleep. Let's break it down simply. Wealth is not just about what you earn. Wealth is about what you can multiply without increasing effort at the same rate. That is leverage. Now let me show you how the rich actually use it and how you can begin to think the same way. The first thing the wealthy understand is this: you will never become rich working alone. There is a limit to what one person can do in 24 hours. No matter how skilled, disciplined, or intelligent you are, you still only have one day like everyone else. But when you learn to use other people's time, your limits disappear. The wealthy don't ask, how much can I do today? They ask, how much can be done through me today? They build teams. They build systems. They build organizations. And here is the key. They don't pay people to work for them. They pay people to help expand capacity. One person becomes 10. 10 becomes 100. 100 becomes 1,000. Suddenly, one vision is no longer limited by one life. That is leverage. But here is the safety principle most people miss. The rich don't just hire hands, they align minds. They don't want workers. They want contributors, people who think, solve, and grow the mission. Because when people grow, the system becomes stable. And stability is what makes leverage safe. Poor people work for money. Wealthy people make money work for them. There is a massive difference. Money sitting idle is wasted opportunity. But money put into motion becomes a servant that works endlessly. The wealthy use money as leverage through investing, ownership, and compounding. They ask questions like, how can this money generate more money? What asset can this build? How can this return itself and grow again? And here's the principle. The rich don't chase high income, they chase high return systems. A salary is limited, but an investment can multiply. A job ends when you stop working, but an asset keeps working when you stop. That is why wealth grows quietly for the rich, even when they are not actively working. But here is the safety rule. They never risk everything on one move. They spread risk intelligently. They protect downside while expanding upside. Leverage without protection is destruction. Leverage with wisdom is power. The most powerful leverage in the world is not money or people. It is ideas. One idea can change a life. One idea can change a business. One idea can change a generation. The wealthy are always searching for better ideas, not just more effort. Because effort scales slowly, but ideas scale instantly. Think about it. One person learns how to build a system that solves a problem once and sells it to 1,000 times. One person learns how to communicate value and reaches millions. One person learns how to organize knowledge and builds a global platform. Same hours, different thinking, different results. The rich understand something critical. You don't get paid for effort. You get paid for clarity of thinking multiplied by usefulness in the marketplace. That is why they invest in learning. They invest in mentors. They invest in books, courses, and environments that expand thinking. Because one new idea can be worth more than 10 years of labor. If you want to understand wealth at the highest level, understand this. The rich don't build jobs. They build systems. A system is something that produces results repeatedly without requiring constant effort. A restaurant system, a business system, a marketing system, an investment system. Systems are what separate income from time. And once income is separated from time, wealth becomes scalable. The goal is not to work harder inside a system. The goal is to build or own the system itself. Because whoever owns the system controls the flow of value. But here is where most people get it wrong. They think systems are complex. They are not. A system is simply a repeatable process that works without you. And once it works, you improve it, not rebuild it every time. That is how leverage becomes stable instead of chaotic. Time is the most underestimated form of leverage. Most people think time passes. The wealthy know time compounds. What you do today does not just affect today, it multiplies into your future. A good habit practiced daily becomes unstoppable momentum. An investment held long enough becomes generational wealth. A skill learned deeply becomes lifelong income. Time rewards consistency, not intensity. The rich are not always the fastest. They are the most consistent over long periods. They understand that small actions, repeated, become massive outcomes. That is why they think in decades, while others think in days. Now here is the truth that ties everything together. Leverage is powerful but dangerous in the wrong hands. If you misuse leverage, it amplifies mistakes. If you use it wisely, it amplifies success. The wealthy don't just seek leverage, they control it. They diversify, risk build, strong foundations before scaling learn, before they invest, understand what they are building, before expanding it. Avoid emotional decisions in financial matters. They respect leverage because they understand it can either build empires or destroy them. Wealth is not created by working harder than others. Wealth is created by thinking differently about effort itself. The average person trades time for money. The wealthy trade thinking for leverage. And once they find the right leverage people, money, ideas, systems, and time, they no longer need to chase wealth. Wealth begins to grow through them. So the question is not, how could I work more? The real question is, how can I multiply what I already have? Because the moment you answer that question correctly, your entire financial future begins to change. And it changes not by force, but by leverage. Wealth is not the result of constant physical effort alone. It is the result of intelligent multiplication. Most people are trained to believe that success is directly tied to how hard they work, how many hours they put in, and how much sacrifice they make in the short term. While effort is important, it has a natural limit. A human being only has a fixed number of hours in a day, and no matter how disciplined or hardworking someone becomes, that limit cannot be broken. This is where the thinking difference begins between those who remain financially constrained and those who grow into abundance. The wealthy shift their focus from linear thinking to exponential thinking. Instead of asking how much money they can earn from their personal effort, they ask how much money they can earn from their personal effort. They begin to ask how they can multiply results without multiplying effort at the same rate. This is a completely different way of viewing life. It means understanding that one action, when designed correctly, can produce results repeatedly. One decision can create systems that continue producing value long after the initial effort has been made. This mindset change transforms how a person sees opportunities. Instead of looking for just a job or a paycheck, they start looking for leverage points, places where a small input can create a large output. That could be a skill that scales, an idea that can be repeated, a product that can be sold multiple times, or a system that runs without constant supervision. The goal is no longer to stay busy, but to become effective in a way that expands impact. Another important part of this principle is understanding that time alone does not create wealth. Structured action over time does. Many people stay active for years without meaningful progress because their actions are not designed to multiply results. They repeat the same effort cycle without improvement or scaling. On the other hand, those who understand leverage focus on building something that grows itself. They invest time in learning, building, and refining systems that can continue to function and expand. This approach also requires patience and vision. Multiplication does not always show immediate results. In the beginning, it may even feel slower than traditional hard work, but over time, the effects begin to compound. Small improvements stack upon each other, systems begin to strengthen, and results start accelerating beyond initial expectations. This is why many people fail to recognize the power of leverage. They stop too early, before the compounding effect begins to show its true strength. Ultimately, wealth becomes a byproduct of thinking differently about effort. Instead of being the center of value creation, personal effort becomes the starting point of a larger system. The real goal is to create something that continues to produce value beyond personal involvement. When this shift happens, income is no longer tied directly to time. Instead, it becomes tied to the quality of thinking, the structure of systems, and the ability to multiply results efficiently. This is the foundation of wealth creation, not working endlessly, but learning how to make each effort expand into something greater than itself. Most people are taught to believe that their personal time is the only source of productivity. They wake up each day, exchange hours for money, and repeat the same cycle with little variation. In this mindset, growth is always limited because it depends entirely on individual capacity. There is only so much one person can do in a day, and when success is tied only to personal effort, there will always be a ceiling that cannot be crossed. The wealthy think differently. They understand that time becomes powerful only when it is multiplied through other people. One individual may have limited output, but a group of aligned individuals can create exponential results. This is why successful people focus on building teams, partnerships, and networks rather than trying to do everything alone. They realize that true growth happens when human effort is multiplied, not isolated. Using other people's time is not about exploitation, it is about collaboration and value exchange. Each person brings a unique strength, skill, or perspective. When these abilities are combined under a shared vision, the output becomes far greater than what any single individual could achieve alone. The wealthy learn how to position people in roles where their strengths are maximized, allowing collective productivity to rise far beyond individual limits. This principle also requires a shift in leadership thinking. Instead of controlling every small detail, successful people focus on direction rather than execution. They set goals, communicate vision, and build systems where others can contribute effectively. This allows them to multiply outcomes without being trapped in daily tasks. In doing so, they free themselves from being the bottleneck of their own success. Another important aspect is trust. Leveraging other people's time requires the ability to trust systems and individuals. Many people struggle with this because they believe that if they do not handle everything themselves, things will fall apart. This mindset keeps them small and overworked. On the other hand, those who understand leverage invest time in training, communication, and structure so that others can perform with clarity and confidence. As this process develops, something powerful begins to happen. Work becomes scalable. Instead of output being tied to one person's energy, it becomes tied to the combined energy of many. One idea can be executed by 10 people. One strategy can be implemented across multiple locations. One system can operate continuously without requiring constant supervision. This is how small efforts grow into large organizations. However, the key to safety in this type of leverage is alignment. When people are working toward different goals, systems break down. But when everyone shares the same direction and understanding, the system becomes stable and self-sustaining. This is why the wealthy invest heavily in communication, culture, and clarity. They know that the strength of leverage depends on how well people are connected to the same purpose. Over time, this approach changes everything. Work is no longer about personal effort alone, it becomes about coordination. Time is no longer limited to one individual, it expands through many. And success is no longer measured by what one person can do, but by what a well-organized group can achieve together. This is how the wealthy turn time into a scalable asset rather than a personal limitation. Money is often misunderstood as something that must be saved and protected only, but in the world of wealth creation, money is seen as a tool of multiplication. The difference between financial struggle and financial growth is not how much money a person earns, but how effectively they direct that money toward producing more value. When money is idle, it loses opportunity. When it is active, it becomes a force that generates continuous expansion. Most people work for money and then try to hold on to it tightly out of fear of losing it. This mindset creates stagnation. The wealthy, however, develop a different relationship with money. They respect it, but they also understand that money is designed to move. When it is placed into the right opportunities, it returns with more value than before. This is how money transitions from being a result of effort into being a source of further effortlessness. The idea of using money as leverage begins with understanding return over time. Instead of focusing only on how much money is earned today, wealthy individuals focus on how much that money can grow tomorrow, next year, or even 10 years from now. This long-term perspective allows them to make decisions that prioritize growth over immediate consumption. They invest in assets, businesses, and ideas that have the potential to increase in value or generate recurring income. Another important principle is compounding. Money that is reinvested continues to grow on itself, creating a cycle where earnings generate more earnings. Over time, this compounding effect becomes more powerful than direct labor. What starts as a small investment can grow into something significant if it is allowed to remain in motion and continuously reinvested. This is one of the reasons wealth often appears to grow faster for those who think long-term rather than short-term. However, using money as leverage is not about taking reckless risks. The wealthy approach it with calculation and awareness. They study opportunities, understand potential outcomes, and spread risk intelligently. They know that the goal is not to avoid risk completely, but to manage it in a way that protects the foundation while still allowing growth. This balance between caution and opportunity is what makes financial leverage safe rather than destructive. Another key understanding is ownership. The wealthy prefer to own assets rather than simply earn income from effort alone. Ownership means having control over something that continues to generate value even when direct involvement is reduced. This could be a business, an investment, or any system that produces returns over time. Through ownership, money becomes a multiplier instead of a temporary reward. Over time, this mindset changes everything about financial behavior. Spending becomes more intentional. Investment becomes a priority. Saving is no longer just about storing money, but about preparing it for movement. Every unit of currency is viewed as something that has the potential to grow if placed correctly. Ultimately, money becomes a servant rather than a master. It is no longer something that dictates lifestyle through limitation, but something that expands possibility through movement. When used wisely, it stops being static and becomes a continuous source of growth. This is how financial leverage transforms ordinary earnings into long-term wealth and stability. True long-term wealth is never built on one factor alone. It is the result of multiple forces working together in harmony systems that operate continuously. Ideas that scale beyond imagination, and time that quietly multiplies everything placed into it. When these three elements are understood and combined, they create a level of financial growth that cannot be achieved through effort alone. Systems are the foundation of lasting wealth because they remove dependency on constant personal involvement. A system is simply a structured process that produces consistent results. Instead of repeating the same effort every day, a well-built system continues to function even when the creator is not actively managing every detail. This is how businesses grow beyond individuals. Once the structure is strong, the output becomes predictable and scalable. The wealthy focus heavily on building these systems because they allow them to step away from direct labor while still maintaining or increasing results. Ideas, on the other hand, are the starting point of expansion. A single powerful idea can influence millions of people, create entirely new industries, or transform existing ones. Unlike physical effort, ideas are not limited by time or geography. When an idea is strong enough, it can be shared, repeated, improved, and applied across different contexts. The wealthy constantly seek better ideas, not just harder work, because they understand that improvement in thinking leads to exponential improvement in outcomes. One insight can replace years of manual effort if applied correctly. Time is the silent force that binds everything together. It does not rush, but it always rewards consistency. What is planted today may not show immediate results, but over time, it grows, strengthens, and expands beyond the original expectation. This is why long-term thinking is essential in wealth creation. Many people fail to recognize the power of time because they focus only on immediate results. However, those who understand leverage see time as an ally that compounds every small action into something much larger. When systems, ideas, and time work together, something powerful happens. Systems ensure consistency, ideas ensure growth, and time ensures multiplication. A system without ideas becomes stagnant. An idea without a system remains unrealized. Time without direction produces nothing meaningful. But when all three are aligned, progress becomes exponential rather than linear. The wealthy approach life with this long-range perspective. They are not obsessed with quick success, but with sustainable expansion. They build structures that last, they invest in thinking that scales, and they allow time to do its work without interference. This creates a form of wealth that does not depend on constant effort, but on continuous momentum. This approach also brings stability, because systems reduce chaos, ideas create direction, and time smooths out inconsistency. The overall structure becomes resilient. Even when challenges arise, the foundation remains strong. This is what separates temporary success from lasting wealth. One is built on effort alone, while the other is built on leverage that continues to operate through changing conditions. In the end, true financial freedom is not about doing more. It is about building better structures, thinking at a higher level, and allowing time to amplify what has already been created. When this understanding is applied, wealth stops being something pursued and starts becoming something that naturally unfolds over time. In conclusion, lasting wealth is not created through continuous personal effort alone, but through the intelligent use of leverage that combines systems, ideas, and time. When a person shifts from working endlessly to building structured systems, they move from limitation to scalability. When they focus on powerful ideas instead of repetitive effort, they unlock exponential possibilities. And when they allow time to work in their favor instead of rushing results, they activate the greatest force of compounding. True financial freedom begins when you stop measuring success by daily activity and start measuring it by long-term impact. Systems ensure that your efforts continue even in your absence. Ideas ensure that your value can expand beyond boundaries. Time ensures that every small step you take today can grow into something far greater tomorrow. This is the real foundation of sustainable wealth, not constant struggle, but intelligent design, not temporary effort, but lasting structure, not immediate results, but continuous growth. When these principles come together, success is no longer something you chase, it becomes something that naturally builds itself over time.